All right, Fuel Session 2, Season 2, and we are going to be talking tonight about, let's see what we have. Yeah, we're going to continue on the individual leader. Last time when we had Fuel, we talked about the questions why and when, and we touched a little bit on how as well, regarding when you should lead and how you set up your squads. We also had, let me see if I can remember. We talked about what was it again? I can't remember at the moment. It was something to do with new leaders. Um, I think it was some basic. Yeah, now I remember. It was about your rules, your squad, your rules. So if you want to create squads, remember that if you create a squad, you decide how you play. So even if I join your squad and I've been here forever in FU, I have no right to come in and tell you how to play the game. So I submit to your leadership if I join your group, as long as it's not detrimental to the community. So that view that we have in FU means that anybody can join and start leading and creating content, and you can also freely explore the sort of gameplay you want. So you're not forced to run infantry. You're not forced to use formations if you don't want to, etc. So it's very much up to the user to create what they want. Likewise, tied to leadership, you're not expected to lead. There's not going to be anybody forcing anybody to lead here. It is a service that we provide to the community, and that said, you can't either expect anybody else to be leading. So it's important to understand that it's a contribution that we all make to the community, and respect and appreciate those who are putting in the time to create the events for us. Now, that was a brief summary of what we talked about last time. Do we have any questions or requests from you guys? What would you like to discuss tonight?
It's a big responsibility. Yeah.
Leadership, yeah. Yeah, leadership. You're managing people's time and expectations, so it does come with responsibility. However, I think um, it, gaming in itself is a very safe environment to practice leadership. It's a very good environment because it puts you immediately into all kinds of situations where you have to practice how you communicate, how you handle stressful situations, coordinate people. While it doesn't, you're not risking like economic damage, like if you were in real life leading, if you're a foreman or something similar. There's personnel risk of injury. There's monetary loss. So you don't have these risk factors in gaming. So it's an excellent medium to practice these skills. It's not the same as real life, but it has a lot of similarities. Now, I'll provide you with the link to Miro. Miro is a whiteboard that we use to teach. You can view. Hold on. There you go. You should be able to see my cursor once you click that link. Might take a little while to load it up. Yeah, this is this is a whiteboard where I collect all kinds of information, and then I try to make sense of it, and I puzzle it into some sort of coherent structure. If you don't know me from before, I've been leading FU for, what does it make it now? It's 18 years. And I've also studied leadership in real life quite a bit. So it's a field that I'm very interested in. And I think that gaming is an excellent environment to train these skills and also to teach them out. So it's a small hobby project of mine to continue working on this.
Nice.
Have you guys accessed Miro? Is it okay for everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, very good. I shall zoom in, then you can follow my cursor. Unfortunately, I'm not streaming at the moment. I should have maybe streamed it, but yeah, I'm not that experienced with it, and I technically forgot how to do it, so we'll return to it maybe next time. Yeah, so we have Leadership ABC 1, which goes into questions about why do you lead, what is driving your interest, what is keeping you motivated. If you want more information about that, you can check not last week, but last session. We recorded it, so it's uploaded. We also talked about when you should lead a squad or when you should form it. Ideally, you should form it early on, because that's when most players are looking for something to join. And if you're a bit later, then most players have already joined squads, and it's difficult to find new players to fill your squads. So just practical stuff like that. Now, if you move further down to the how question, now how do you create your squad and how do you manage? This is where we stopped last time. I will continue here today. It is fairly simple. If you have been leading squads before, none of this should come as news to you, but we are assuming that there might be completely new leaders watching this, so we'll briefly glance over the practicalities before we move into the more philosophical aspects of it. And just so everybody is aware how this works, so you're not disappointed or frustrated tonight, we are not going in-game. This is purely going into theoretical stuff regarding leadership in FU and how we view it. If you want to practice in-game, then you can do it next Friday. That's when we host in-game. Plus, you can also join the squads we have any day of the week and volunteer to lead there. So, you create your squad by going into the UI in the game, the user interface. And then you can go into the outfit browser. You can invite outfit members to your squad. Or if you have a friend list in game, you can use that to invite people to initiate a squad. Now, as soon as you have your squad created, as soon as somebody has joined your squad, you can then list it publicly. Or you can list it as outfit only. If you do not list your squad, then you're not going to get a steady stream of players joining it. There are some strings you can use if you want to officially list your squads as FU. The strings are listed here on Miro, but you can also find them on TeamSpeak if you click the outfit drill channel on TeamSpeak. In the channel description, there's the same strings. So you can use those if you want to specifically represent FU. Sorry, my my voice is bad as usual. But anyways, you don't have to list them as FU. You can also just run them publicly. But remember, if you run them as FU, then you represent the community more widely. So keep that in mind. So once you have your squad created, then there's 3 main area that you can focus on. The first one is improving cohesion. So assuming you've created a public squad and there's unknown players in it, random players, it's going to be difficult maybe for the whole squad to really function properly. So gradually fill up your squad, invite players. You can queue spot invite players in the game if you want to.
Question.
Yes.
You have a private channel for all the leaders, right?
Private channel for what?
All the clans leaders.
Yes.
Thanks.
Do you mean the leader? I mean the leader channel into the game, or other means to communicate with other outfit leaders outside the game?
I mean Discord or TeamSpeak.
Oh, that outside the game, you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have TeamSpeak. This TeamSpeak. So you see.
With password.
Yes, with password.
Okay.
So you see up on our current TeamSpeak, you can see Aden and Raven, Cantoron, and Shadowstep. They're playing in the casual play channel. So you do not have to use TeamSpeak. It's completely voluntary, but for obvious reason, it's going to help you get to know the community and coordinate with the players better if you use it. Sometimes the in-game communication doesn't really work, and that's when TeamSpeak really comes into play. Otherwise, we don't actively use TeamSpeak when we play. We try to use the in-game channels because, well, the public players won't know what's going on unless we use it. So
no, I mean private discussions.
Private discussions on TeamSpeak. If you want to set up your own private channels, you can do that. You can join any channels if you want here. We're going to talk about communication in a little bit. It's coming into improving discipline section here, so I'll go into how we structure that for PlanetSide. 1 second. There we are. Good. So where was I? Yeah, you fill your squad. That's your main objective at first, assuming you're running a public squad. So fill it up, and then move to a different fight. You fight at one place, and then you move to a different fight. And then if you don't see these players responding, they're not joining you, then you gradually remove those players. Remember, do not use excessive force. Do not use foul language to try to get the players to listen. And those who want to cooperate with you, they will do so naturally. And those who are not really interested, then you just inform them, join the fight, follow the orders, or they can leave the squad. So in no time, you should be able to get a decent squad running like this. So it isn't that much more complex to get the initial cohesion up. Now, if you have a full squad, you should consider expanding, because there is an economy to running an outfit. We need to expand, run multiple squads preferably, because that recruits players. From the players, we develop leaders, and the leaders lead squad, and so forth and so forth. So it's a driving ecosystem, essentially a resource economy to run multiple squads, expose a lot of players to the playstyle we have, and if they enjoy it, they join FU, and so forth and so forth. So you are now sort of in the later stage of developing as FU members, so you're getting into leadership and contributing to the whole ecosystem of it. If you have leaders who are willing to lead a squad together with you, then you can expand into a second one. You should avoid expanding to a second squad if you have no voluntary leaders that can take it. There is some debate, like we had last session. We talked about, is it okay to bulk lead? Now, in some context, or to some degree, it is okay, but preferably it should be avoided. Now, let's see. Yeah, briefly about expanding. If you find a volunteer to take the second squad, then move some players over to it. Not all. Do not balance them too much. Keep 2 spots open in the first squad. Make sure the second squad is also listed. Then you move over excess players from the first squad to the second, and then you let it also recruit its own players. So you gradually fill up that squad, and it will be easier to get the third squad because now you have 2 excess squads where you can take players from, and then the last squad is even easier, assuming there's players to go around. So that's expansion. It's very important for the overall health of the community. Now, expansion isn't everything. You don't always have to expand. If you want to run a smaller group, that's completely up to you. You don't have to do any expansion at all. You can just run 1 squad. But it's important as leaders that you understand the underlying necessity for expansion long term. Also, you shouldn't feel that you have to. So there's a balance between those 2 forces. Any questions regarding cohesion or any comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You didn't inform us how long is session. I mean, your session.
The session here tonight or the session when you play the game?
Discussion that we're currently doing.
I will try to keep it under 1 hour.
Okay.
You do not have to be here if you're not interested. This is not mandatory. This is completely voluntary to participate.
No, you know, same. I'm interested. Just wondering.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it around 1 hour tonight. It's going to be longer than last time, but after that 1 hour, it will be then open for discussion. If there's any other question or anything, then we can continue discussing. But the content for tonight, I'll try to keep it at around an hour. So we're 20 minutes in, so 40 minutes more.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to the more important part, and that's improving discipline in the squad. So how do you really make it function now that you are presumably you have a squad that's somewhat cohesive? They're following the same fights that you're going to. They're following you there, and also you have now 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 or 4 squads under your command. So the first thing we have is secure rally advance. As a squad leader and as just a squad member, you should keep in mind that first you rally with your group, then you secure wherever you are, and then you push out. And this repeats over and over as you play the game. Spawn on a Sunday, secure it until your squad can spawn there. If you're spawning alone and the squad is still up, then of course, you have to evaluate the situation and move in with them where they currently are. But way too often you see a squad getting wiped and then players start to spawning 1 by 1 and they just scatter around. So keep this in mind. It's really important. Rally up before you push out. The next bit is the standard operating procedure, which is the communication template that we use in FU. It's very simple. If you played with us, you have heard it. It's just platoon to alpha, then alpha response, then platoon gives the order, and alpha copies. This template reduces unnecessary information, and it also makes sure that the squad leaders are actually listening. There are plenty of platoon leaders who are just giving out orders over and over and over, and the people stop listening to it. Squad leaders are busy, they're trying to lead their squad, they're in a fight. If they get an order just out of the blue suddenly, they might completely miss it. So that is why this template is very useful in that sense. Any question regarding communication?
Yeah, how does exactly headset work?
So platoon chat is mainly reserved for squad and platoon leaders. If you need to talk as a squad member, then usually do it in your squad channel. Or if it's urgent, like you see a max crash or a gal drop coming in, then feel free to use the platoon chat. So there's no exact set of rules how communication is done. There are just guidelines, and then people use their common sense, and that's usually enough. It's good to remember if you are a squad leader, you're also trying to gradually train the players under your lead. And these sort of sessions where you get together in the game specifically to train, they usually don't work. And they're not fun, and they're very draining on the leaders. That is why I have this session only every second week, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. But still, it's really important to remember that you, as a leader, should constantly keep it in the back of your mind that you are actively training players, but you are doing this as they play the game. You're not going to pull them out of the gameplay too much. It's just going to be something that you gradually condition players towards. Now, what this means is foster a culture in your squad where calling out targets or volunteering to pull Sundays or beacons or whatever is necessary, try to get the players to communicate these very basic things. You don't need to have long discussions, but give opportunities for the players to show initiative. That is one of the key ingredients to build a good community. We will return to creating initiative a bit later on. But as it says here in this little box, that foster a culture where the squad members also communicate in the squad, instead of the SL being essentially, or the SL leading by a monologue. So avoid having squads where you're just talking. Or if you're joining a squad and you notice that the squad leader is the only one talking, try to initiate some communication with the squad leader. Call out a target, ask what's going on, ask what's needed. Be a good squad member. It almost requires you to be somewhat decent as a leader to be a really good squad member. It's not I shouldn't say it's a rule, but it's usually, if you have been a good squad leader, you will also be an excellent squad member because you understand the bigger picture of a functioning squad.
Question.
Yes.
What do the terms SRA and SOP mean?
SRA means Secure Rally Advance. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. Oh, here we have also the last row here is promote initiative. Ask for volunteers for beacons and other assets. Involve the players more. And this is the early leadership development. Okay. ABC3 is going to talk about perspective. Now, we have briefly gone through ABC1 here. ABC2 and ABC3 is baked into how you manage your squad. Here's more detailed information. We have the professional leadership concept in FU. This is a leadership philosophy, or it's an attitude towards the responsibilities of the authority of the task of leading. When you take on a position as a leader, you're taking on the, quote, professional role. This is often what we refer to as the ethos in FU. This is the leadership culture that has emerged in FU and is very important to understand. So you are there to enforce orders, but do not use excessive force in doing so. If you use, say, team kills or insults or just threats to get people to comply, over time you will develop a team of passive people around you. They will not be conditioned to take initiative. They will solely rely on you as a leader. So it's over time, this will essentially make the outfit as a whole, I would say, quite dysfunctional. You can be a very authoritative leader to be effective in the short term, but long term it's usually very detrimental. You will get these sort of personality cult outfits if you have this type of leadership where it's very, very aggressive. Remember that, as I said before, being part of the group is voluntary, but following orders is not. You can state the rules or the orders, and those who fail to follow needs to be removed from the squad. Again, your rules, your squad, your rules. Remember that. Personal insult, degrading other outfits, or team killing as a mean to enforce authority is weak leadership. Remember that your responsibility is towards the players who are following orders. It is not towards FU members. FU members do not have any, how should I put it? They don't have a priority over anybody else. The only benefit you really get from being an FU member is that we try to guarantee you a spot. If the platoon is full and we have FU members waiting to join, we will try to make room for you. But if you do not follow, if you join a squad but you do not submit to the leadership, you're free to leave and create whatever you want, or you'll be escorted out. So the rules applies equally to anybody in the squad, FU members or public players. And public players, if they are following orders, then they will be treated as equals. Secondly, or thirdly, or maybe fourthly, or whatever, I don't know how many points I've said already, your leadership is not about doing all the work. You shouldn't be doing all the work. It's quite lazy to be the squad and platoon leader and pulling the galaxy. Yes, it's quicker to get to the fight that way, but again, you're stealing the initiative from the players and you're conditioning the team again to be passive. And lastly, it says here, you're failing the trust of the players who are following orders, those who are trying to make the team work. If you have no standard, if you do not call players from the squad who are not listening, you will frustrate those who are trying to make the squad work, and they will probably be the first also to leave. This applies on a larger context like the outfit. So if you run the outfit in a bad way, or it's inactive, or you're not recognizing the efforts and the talents of those who are in your community, the best ones will leave first. Any questions regarding the ethos?
No, all clear so far.
I'm sure there are plenty more that can be said about good leadership. You can read up more on the information here if you want. For the sake of time, we'll move on to Secure Rally Advance. Actually, Secure Rally Advance, there's not much more to be said about it. Rally with your squad, secure the position, and then move out. This applies to you as a leader, and this applies to you also as a squad member. And communication standard operating procedure should be fairly self-explanatory.
User joined your channel.
Hello, Tandy.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. I had to do some idle stuff.
That's all right. I'm recording it. Let's see. Yes, something else to be said about communication. If you want, you can use TeamSpeak in the background to discuss tactics or ask for advice. It's actively used to mentor new leaders, so you probably are going to be sitting here with a lot of veteran players, and don't be intimidated. They really appreciate it if you're leading, and if you're inexperienced, that's fine. You can ask them for help, you can discuss tactics here. Do not do it on Platoon Chat. Platoon Chat is more like a stage. You're not going to talk about the details on Platoon Chat. You're just issuing out the orders and narrating the fight. That's it. But on TeamSpeak, it's different. Here you can have the sort of the backroom discussions. Command channeling game. We cooperate with other outfits on a neutral basis. This usually means that we give out information where we're going. We're not requesting, or we're not demanding that other assist us. We can request that they assist us, but there's no demand for anybody to assist us, nor are we obliged to assist anybody else. If it fits our current situations, we will. But we have to understand, do not get upset at other outfits or other leaders on the command channeling game. And yeah, that's it. I shall move on to ABC3 now, which goes which goes into perspectives of leadership. Was there any questions regarding what we just talked about? Very good. There are two main perspectives to leadership. Now, 1 second. Akko6, can you please move your mic away from the speakers? You're echoing back what I'm saying. Thank you.
I already.
So, two main perspectives. The first one is conquest.
I mean before.
Hmm?
I mean before.
Sorry, before what?
I removed it.
Yes,
earlier.
very
With
good.
no idea why you hear echoes.
If you have what's it called, voice activated, then if your speaker is too loud, your mic will pick it up. Now, conquest. Conquest leaders, they aim to win. In PlanetSide, that would be, capturing territory in the name of your outfit or your faction. The method of leading is usually very goal-oriented, bodies on point, focus on the result, hold the capture point at all cost. And of course, the aim is to win the fight or win the alert or win the scrim or the outfit wars. The perspective is finite game strategy. Now, what finite game strategy is, what it means, let me try to illustrate it. You're playing a game where there's known rules, known players, and the goal is to win the game. So think of a football match or ice hockey or any sports. There's a condition for scoring points, and when you win the game, there's a set amount of players in the game. So for PlanetSide, well, known players mean you know what factions are involved, you know what outfits are involved, and in scrims there's a set amount of players per team. Same for outfit wars. These are fixed settings with a start and an end, so it's a finite game. And known rules mean, well, you have the conditions for outfit wars when you win, you have the conditions for alerts in game when they end. So if you have this sort of a mindset as a leader, you usually compare yourself or your outfit to external factors, like you compare yourself to other outfits. Are you better than the other outfits in this, statistics or in scoring points or whatever? Usually, this is also a focus on total efficiency. Quantity has a quality of its own. You recruit a lot of players, you push a lot of players in one direction because, well, bodies on point, you capture, you win. Another view of resources, and this means recruitment, basically. Indiscriminate recruitment, taking more players, it means you get more of everything. I'm not taking an ethical judgment of this. Conquest mindset or finite game mindset is completely fine. However, it's limited, but it's what's most common mindset among leaders, and it's perfectly understandable why. You usually don't play the game for a long time, or you don't think in long strategic perspectives. Any questions? You guys have any anecdotes? Does this ring familiar in any way? Is anybody even listening anymore?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like processing it more. But yes, it does like ring a bell.
Yeah, so it's
no questions.
All right. This applies both to, quote, Sturgfits, and it also applies to very elite outfits. So this is sort of a cross boundaries perspective. So it's not good, it's not bad, it's just a way of thinking, basically, about how you approach problems, how you approach the outfit and the people in it. You have a second perspective here. Something that we in FU call hostmanship. And hostmanship's aim is the player experience. in comparison to conquest, which aims to win. Hostmanship aims to create the experience for the players. The main features is that it's welcoming. When a player joins our squads, we try to welcome them, especially if it's a public player. It's good to just throw in a joke like, "Hello, Lotta, we've been waiting for you," and assuming that we have never met before. I can just throw in something like, "I've heard rumors about you," or "Finally you're here to save the day," something silly like that, and that usually breaks the ice. That makes the player feel that they're seen, which they are, and it creates a different sort of a dynamic. The method is value driven. It's not goal driven. We have a set of values, what we want to create, what we think is good. So our aim is to support the public player base, or support the faction, to help players capture the points instead of doing it yourself. So we don't necessarily need to be on the points. We don't need to throw bodies on the point. Instead, we can stabilize the flanks, stabilize the spawns, and just have more flexibility to the gameplay. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily that efficient, that we're doing what's most efficient to capture the base. But we can prevent or mitigate some of the how should I put it, some of the farming, where experienced players essentially abuse new players and making the new players frustrated and probably leaving the game as a result. Also, this sort of leading tends to be less. How should I put it? This sort of leading is less grand in its design. You don't look at the whole continent or the faction or the alert like we are going to be sort of the champions for this alert or whatever. Instead, you fracture the gameplay into just small scenarios. You don't need to needlessly sacrifice your players in meat grinders. If you have fun at a base, you keep on fighting there, but if it really gets, bad in a way that you have to throw people on the point, or the fight's getting empty and you're ghost capping, but it's strategically wise to ghost cap, then you don't do that. It's the player experience is not good, therefore you avoid it. Another typical feature is that you focus on being resilient as a group. You don't just drop on the point and hold it for as long as you can, and if you get wiped, you essentially go somewhere else. Instead, you're trying to stay in the hex, maybe spawn on an alternative position, holding spawns, and then gradually moving back in, supporting public players as you do it. Your goal is not to take the base, your goal is to support the fight and create the experience. If you have seen the... what's it called again?
User joined your channel.
Welcome.
Hello, user.
Good evening.
If you have seen the tactical module, it's the base overlay or layout. I think it was base layout video. I have it. I can link you later on. There's a video where I show it in game. Basically, if you get pushed off a fight, you then create multiple smaller scenarios within that fight where you try to hold on. And yeah, enough about that. You can check the video later on if you want. But as you see, there are some stark differences from the conquest. Here, winning or losing the base is quite irrelevant. Creating a welcoming atmosphere where players feel that they are seen, and that they have a place, and that you're creating fights that isn't putting the outfit tag or the faction above the player's experience. Lastly, the question is, win or lose, did you have a good time? You can have a great time losing, or you can have a terrible time winning. Now, you can have a great time and win, which is, of course, the best. Again, I'm not making any ethical judgment here. One is not better than the other. They're not exclusive. They're both valid at the same time. Sometimes it might be wiser to be more conquest-minded, but you also need to understand the other perspective of hostmanship. That will make you a very balanced leader, and especially long-term hostmanship will be more important. As opposed to conquest perspective, where we have finite game strategy.
User left your channel.
In hostmanship, we have infinite game strategy. Now this means that we have unknown rules, unknown players, and the goal is to stay in the game. Not to win, but to stay in the game. Now, unknown players mean you don't know how many players or which outfits will be participating in the fight. Unknown rules means you don't know what you're measuring against. If you're not playing for the alert, you're not playing for the scrim or whatever, you're just playing to have fun. Now, what are you going to measure? Are you going to measure who's having more fun? And how would you do that? You do not compare yourself to external factors. You don't compare yourself to other outfits. Some outfits are just more skilled than you. They're bigger, they're faster, whatever. And that's fine. But if you did a good job, created a good experience for yourself, don't neglect yourself as a leader, and the players who joined you, they had a good time, you can rest assured they will be there next time. And maybe you'll win more then, or maybe lose more, who knows. But the point is that this puts a completely different spin on priorities and how you potentially view the game. And this is not limited to PlanetSide. This is universal. This applies to real life in many contexts as well. As for outfit leadership perspective, this is very important. This builds a loyal, trusting community that usually will stick around for a very long time, as seen with FU. It's quite old. So at many stages we return to hostmanship, and it can be discussed in different contexts. Do you have any comments or any anecdotes that you can relate to this?
I can only say that I really see myself in this and that I should be more on the hostmanship side.
That's good to hear. Hostmanship is, I would say, FU leans heavily into hostmanship. We have to keep it real. What we're doing here, what we are creating, it's a community. It's a lot of us are older players, let's put it that way. We've been playing the game for decades, or different games for decades. This is not a let's put it, how should I put it? We're not trying to compensate for our ego with leadership. we see this as a joint venture to create a good environment that we enjoy, both, you know, having a laugh and also to play together. And you know, it's something that if you feel that you've grown tired of a game, then you can just leave it aside. Don't burn yourself out. You can always return. It will be stable. It will be here. So it doesn't put these sort of mental burdens on leaders to always be present, always feel that there's this rivalry or threat. Okay, we are about 1 hour into Fuel tonight. Any other anecdotes or questions?
So this is second session. Was there recording for the first one?
Yes.
Where I can find it?
It should be in the Discord channel, Fuel channel.
Oh, right.
I do apologize that I am completely. I don't know why I can't collect my thoughts tonight. I'm completely improvising these sessions. I'm using this Miro board as sort of a reference point, but I have no real script, so it might be me rambling about a lot of nonsense in between some good points.
It's fine. I think it all makes perfect sense.
Maybe it's just me that's tired of hearing my own voice talking about the same things I've done for years. We can look at yes, if you guys want to, and of course you do, we can look at ABC4, generic leadership development pattern in game. This is a model that shows the typical development route of leaders, and then the squads, and then the platoons. And it will give you also an off ramp as an experienced leader, so you know where to go once you've reached the peak, so to speak. If you follow my cursor, or in the case of my recording, I'll be zooming in. Hopefully the recording has sound. I've also sometimes recorded these sessions and only to discover there's no actual audio in the clips. Now, at level 1, and we're talking about fire team leader progression here, so we identify fire team leadership as a form of leadership in FU. At level 1, you're just a normal squad member. The special focus here is initiative. So you as a squad leader, if you have members in your squad that show initiative, you ask for a Sunday, then they pull a Sunday. That's great. Keep an eye on that. Give them reasons to do these things. Ask for a beacon. Ask for a galaxy. Don't pull it yourself necessarily, especially not the galaxy if you're leading. You can pull a Sunday, but don't pull the galaxy. This conditions players to get used to stepping up, volunteering, taking initiative. And it's such a small thing, like placing a beacon or pulling a kit. It doesn't commit them to anything, so they don't even register this as an act of leadership. So it's a bit covert. Level 2 is basic fire team leader. The focus here is assist. If you have these players who show initiative and you see that they're comfortable communicating, you can ask them, or you can covertly assign them fire team leader roles. Tell them that you have been given a fire team leader role and you can use your marker, because each fire team leader has their own marker. you can mark targets for us. If you see something, then place the marker there so it's easier for us to coordinate the fire. So you gradually instruct them and you condition them to get used to marking and calling out targets. They don't have to carry any responsibility for it, but you give them this extra tool. And on level 3, we have the XO, or assisting squad leader. This is somebody who is, it's rarely seen because people usually go directly into squad leadership, but some people want to try it out before they actually take on the squad themselves. You can have an XO or a fire team leader can temporarily lead a fight, as an example. If you're the squad leader, you say to your fire team lead that, lead the charge on A point. They do that, and then you announce, okay, very good, I'm taking over from here. This again limits their responsibility, gives them a chance to try something, just for a little bit. Gradually, they get accustomed to how the squad functions. Now, this is an ideal scenario, of course. If you want to, you can read more about the information here in these bubbles, but let's keep on moving on. Level 4 is not relevant now. That comes later. Level 4 fire team. So we'll follow the arrow down from level 3 fire team leader into squad leading. Now, the first type of squad leader you have is a passive squad leader. He relays one way. You give him an order, he places the marker for the squad. Maybe he tells the squad to go there. They don't really actively engage that much with the squad. They maybe are not familiar with it, they don't have the terminology or maybe the language better, whatever the reason is. They're not really leading the squad, they're more like a placeholder squad leader. Typically, new leaders who don't really know yet how to lead the squad, or they're just a bit shy maybe, or you have older members of the community who understand the necessity for the squads, and then they sort of sign up for it, but they're not really interested in leading, but they do it for the greater good, and then you have these sort of passive type of leaders. Level 2 is a reactive squad leader. He reacts and he reports. They have some situational awareness. They can give feedback to the platoon leader, usually a bit too late. But they're more actively communicating with the squad, charging the fights, calling out targets, and being a decent squad leader. Level 3 is the proactive squad leader. This is somebody who is rallied and ready. They know how to pick fights. They think essentially like a platoon leader. If they need reinforcement, they know in time to request it. If they need to move out to a new fight, they will have their squad ready on a galaxy before requesting orders. Or they can be completely autonomous, depending on what they agree with the platoon leader. If the platoon leader tells them that you can pick your own fights, then that's fine. A small but important side note to make here is, if you join a platoon, you are, as a squad leader, you are subordinate to the platoon leader. The platoon leader gives you a target to go to, and you go there. If you feel it's wrong, you can request a new order or negotiate with the platoon leader. I'm sure there will be no issue with that. You will be given a new target, or you can suggest it yourself. However, just so we have some sort of a framework to understand the boundaries, once you are dropped into a fight, you can position yourself and your squad any way you like. You can move your squad waypoint anywhere you like in that hex you're assigned to. Even if the platoon leader placed it on the A point, it doesn't matter. It's just, showing you where to go initially. After that, take control, position your squad wherever you feel is important. If you feel the fight's hopeless or bad, then request to be assigned somewhere else. This is typically level 2, level 3 type of leadership. But it's important to understand that the platoon leader's authority ends once you drop to the ground with the squad. Then you are in charge as the squad leader. The platoon leader is there to coordinate. He looks on the map, you look on the fight. Anyways. Any questions or any comments so far? Everything is clear.
One
Yeah,
question.
Go on.
Is there a way you could comment
User joined your channel.
to better yourself through the levels? Because I find it quite hard to lead and meanwhile reflect and think of things I could do better or could have done better. Is it just lead, finish your job, then reflect, maybe ask others about it, and then proceed to maybe a new level? Or are there steps I can take by myself to assure that I'm progressing towards a level 3 squad lead, by example?
I'm sure there are plenty of ways you can improve. It's difficult to, since I don't know you that well personally, it's difficult for me to give you exact advice on how to improve. What comes to mind is something we discussed very early on in season 1. We haven't discussed it at all yet. This comes. Hold on, I'm just trying to back up my hardware here, or my software maybe. We talked about cognitive load when you're leading. The scenario goes as follows. If you're a new leader and you are assigned to lead a squad in a fight and you're not really familiar with the game, it will be overwhelming. You don't know exactly where to go. There's explosions, there's gunfire, there might be people talking left and right. It's too much for you to take in to be effective. Usually what happens is that a new leader, if they're enthusiastic, they know how to get to the point and they charge in, but then very quickly they kind of go silent. They become a bit passive because they're taking in so much. It's difficult for them to really be at the same speed as the game and the platoon.
Gotcha.
Now, if you then lead for a little bit more, you do it for a week or two or maybe longer, then you will get used to all of this input. You will get used to the terminology, the way the squad plays, the way the game functions, the explosions, all that. Now you can start to ignore all of that sensory input you got initially, which means that you will reduce the cognitive load on you as a leader, and then you have the opportunity to start observing new things and developing new ways of approaching or communication or whatever. Now, what my recommendation, now very, very loose recommendation, since I don't know you specifically, if you're stuck on a specific development level or whatever we call it, consider what's taking up your attention when you're leading. If you're just leading the same way every time you feel you're not doing something new or progressing, is there something that you could sort of maybe reduce or give over to somebody else in your squad? Like if you're driving a lot or you're leading fire or whatever's going on, because you need a little bit of space, a little bit of calm to get used to new routines as a leader. Routines is also something we'll discuss in the future, how you develop routines in the outfit, and habits, and you habit stack different types of behavior. And this goes very deeply into how you condition a group, but we'll leave that aside. But it ties into this. Something that I did it's such a long time ago, but I think sometimes when I had an idea I really wanted to try out with my own leadership and the outfit, I would just write it on a paper and have it in front of me. And in extreme scenarios, I could put a timer on my phone so it would like ring in 10 or 15 minutes just to take my attention and bring it to the paper. What was it I wanted to do? Because it's so easy to go into your old habits, your old routines, that you do the same stuff and you kind of forget the new stuff.
Question.
Yes.
Is he talking about reports?
Reports?
Yes.
What about reports?
For the platoon leader.
Do you mean reporting back to the platoon leader?
Yes.
So if you're fighting on a base and say you win, then let the platoon leader know that you have won, because he's not looking at the map where you are. If you have multiple fights going at the same time, so let the platoon leader know that Alpha Squad is ready.
Like a situation report.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It can be also Alpha Squad needs reinforcement. We need 1 or 2 squads here. We also call it feedback communication. It's just giving information back to the platoon leader, because the platoon leader he's also a bit blind. He sees the map, but he doesn't really know what's happening in the fight. So the good squad leader can provide information necessary for making good judgment by the platoon leader.
Okay. So
again, there's no specific guidelines to this. It's like use common sense, but still, it's very important. If you have leaders who give communication both ways, then it usually makes everything better. Now, Lotta, did that answer the thing about habit stacking and cognitive load? Did that help at all, or do you have any thoughts about it?
I'd say that helped somewhat, because I mean, it's generally speaking, and I didn't expect a specific answer for me, so it helped in the way that my question was asked. But it also brings me to the point where I think that I should consider running a squad and then asking a few of the more experienced members what I can improve on.
Yeah, that will most likely be more efficient because, well, they're there in the moment with you.
Yeah, and if you want more feedback, just join the fuel training sessions. That's exactly what they're there for.
Yeah, I mean, I joined.
Yeah.
I think there was, maybe not anymore, but there used to be also a feedback channel on the Teams, on the Discord.
It's the leadership. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it now again. If you forget to ask in the end of your, let's say, and you like leave, just if you want, you can always still put in one there in there. And not always get reacted upon, but sometimes you have like the more experienced guys who will react on it.
Yeah. Let's move on with the model here. If we're all fine with that. There's a small mention here of autonomous squad leaders. So if you're outside of of a platoon and you're just leading it Yeah, basically, you're a platoon leader with one squad. That's what it means. It was just for, I think I mention it here just for the sake of, it exists. So now let's talk about platoons. And this is a collective effort. Platoons is usually not a one-man band, although there are one-man band platoons. Silent Waypoint Platoon, that's the first level you see. This can be two things. It can be just completely random casual platoon, or it can also be hyper casual veteran platoons. If you have really skilled players that just want to hang out, they know how to play the game, and they can essentially, there's this vast knowledge of the game that allows them to just cooperate and play together naturally. Every single element works autonomously together. Don't see that too often, but it does exist. Maybe not on a platoon scale, but a squad or two. The next platoon is bulk platoons, essentially leading it like a squad, 48-player squad. Usually in the same direction. You don't delegate anything in that platoon. And the squad leader role is not really utilized. Maybe they use the squad leaders to pull galaxies and fly to the next fight, and that's more or less it. Let's see, typical of new leaders because of the simplicity of controlling the platoon in one direction as one big unit. Outfits that use this format of leadership as their standard are often built as a personality cult around one or just a few leaders. Bulk leadership can be a very effective temporary tactic to use regardless of what sort of a platoon leadership setup is used. So in FU, this means that we do use bulk leadership temporarily. If we really need to push a point, then we can use it. This is purely related to the conquest thinking. If we think that the alert or the fight is so valuable that we can use this. Sometimes you could argue that rushing the platoon in one direction and overwhelming the enemy is a positive player experience, and yeah, sure it is. Sure it is to some extent, but it quickly fades with experienced players. The next level is basic delegated leadership. You have each squad has their own squad leader who's leading the squad. Platoon leader and the squad leader can often be the same person. They don't distinguish between those two roles. So normally Alpha squad leader is also platoon leader at the same time. Leaders usually pull galaxies because it's quick and easy to get the whole group moving. This seems to have a tendency to burn out the platoon leaders more because, well, they're performing multiple roles in this scenario. The problem with this sort of delegated leadership, if it's just basic delegation, you're neglecting, well, first off, platoon leader and squad leader are separate roles. So you're eliminating one leadership position in the platoon, which means that you will have one less leader developing overall. It neglects logistics. It neglects galaxy pilots. They're not leaders, but they're still valuable assets, and they're also players who show initiative, pulling the logistics. Another thing to be said about this is the squad leader needs to be on the ground. He needs to read the map beforehand before they drop, and he needs to be on the ground fighting, not flying. And if the squad leader then flies and ditches the galaxy, well, then you lose possibly a very valuable spawn option. And in case of FU, you can also lose a gun platform, because we sometimes use the galaxies to bombard positions in the base. Advanced delegated leadership, that's what we have in FU, or what we strive to have. Here we recognize the platoon leaders separately, squad leaders separately. You have 4 logistic roles separately, and you have fire team leaders. So we try to create as many opportunities for players to take initiative. Doesn't mean that we always have all of these roles, but it's recognized and it can be utilized. It's not going to happen by itself. You, the leaders, need to be aware of these things, and also as players, you need to be aware of these things. It takes time to build it up, but if it works, then it's really nice to play in these sort of platoons. Because also, as I mentioned to Lotta about cognitive load in leadership and getting into old habits that can be bad, preventing you from developing further. The more you delegate these things in the platoon, the more it opens up for all involved. It opens up for the platoon leader to not be overwhelmed. He can look at more creative solutions, or he can relax and play the game instead of just looking at the map all the time. Same with squad leaders. If you have a good fire team leader in your squad, it's going to be a breeze leading, because the fire team leader will assist and amplify your leadership if he is good. Lastly, we have the autonomous platoon here, but we'll leave that entirely because it's not really relevant. Any questions regarding the platoon setups?
Yeah.
As you
Good
see,
questions.
as you see from advanced delegated leadership, there's an arrow going up, and this closes the loop. What have I written here? It's such a long time I don't remember. Let's see. A leader becomes experienced by leading, obviously, and with that comes competency. Obviously, that's a pretty obvious thing. The community relies on the leader to organize events. The more the leader leads, the more experience and recognition he or she gets. The more the community relies on the leader. So this is explaining. Here's an inherent problem with leadership. Let's see if I have even written that. Yeah, this is great in short term, but very problematic in the long term. The leader indirectly suppresses the growth of new leaders because they provide what the community needs directly, which is someone organizing and leading. See if I can unpack it a little bit better. It's great to have these very active leaders who are arranging events for us, who are leading squads and platoons and doing all this, sweet honey nectar that we all want. That's great. I mean, that's you need that to keep the lights on. But there is a problem in that, because let's read on. When a leader is consistently able to field a full platoon or a full group or a squad, whatever you have, if they consistently do it with relative success, it is time to start considering giving away that position and resuming a mentor role. So if you're the sort of confident leader that you're hosting often, you can do it. It's not a big deal for you. It's quite easy to run these squads, and everything seems to work out. You are becoming a problem. Paradoxically, you're at the peak of your performance, but you're now becoming the problem. The leader can still lead the groups, but should deliberately make room for mentoring. This will pay dividends later on, as the leader can step back and participate in the group without having to be the main driving force. So, yeah, this is a difficult problem to deal with, because obviously if you have a good leader and everybody likes him and everything seems to work, you want to ride that as much as possible, but inevitably there will be a burnout or just lack of motivation, finding a new game to play, and suddenly like everything stalls, everything might fall apart. And typically, or at least with myself, I would say that I can lead a platoon no problem. I can set it up. If I join early and I put my mind to it, I can make it happen. I don't consider it much of a challenge because I've done it so much. What makes it more worthwhile and interesting for me is seeing other adopt the format, seeing new people develop and enjoy the game their own way, and contributing to that. So this can prolong your interest in the game and in the whole community if you're able to transition from this veteran leader position into a mentor role. And that loop goes full circle.
User
And
joined your channel.
it returns back to level 4 fireteam leader, also known as commissar in FU. This is something that the officers, if possible, if they're playing and there's no immediate lack of leaders, they can, or they should, take on this position. This means just going into the squad, supporting the leader any way you think it's appropriate. If it's a veteran leader, then you don't need to give them advice. You can be there, shout in the microphone when you're charging, or do something that lifts the spirit. Communicate with the squad leader. If the squad is silent, you help with the communication in the squad. Yeah, pretty much. You know how things should be running, you know what makes it easier for other people, so you are filling that position, but you're not carrying everything. You're just supporting now. And you're not bound to this role. If you reach this stage, you can lead a platoon. Go for it. But you shouldn't feel that because you're logging on and you've always been leading, now you have to lead. This instead gives you a direct place where you can go. Or you can just fly a galaxy like I do. I prefer to just fly a galaxy. Or you can just play as whatever you want. But if you want to continue building on the project of having a good outfit and a good platoon, then this is a good place to be. Any questions or comments? I will then declare this session over. This has been Fuel Session 2, Season 2. We have talked about, what have we talked about? Basic squad leadership, PLC, SRA, SOP, perspectives, and just generic development pattern. Next time, we will look at game design. We'll be looking more at the background design principles behind FU platoons and FU gameplay. This zooms out from the individual leader into the larger context, so you understand how the machinery works more in detail. And it will talk about formations. Why do we use formations? What are they for? It will also look at advanced leadership, where we are talking about the lines. We will be talking about the how should I say, the life cycle or the development pattern from a public player joining the platoon to joining the outfit, and then essentially being developed into a leadership position or just developing leadership in general. Doesn't mean they become squad leaders, but it has everything to do with initiative and how they relate to the squads. So we can look at that later on, not next time, probably not, who knows, maybe. We will also look at system perspectives or system archetypes. System archetypes will be looking at typical patterns of behavior or just development patterns that can be very problematic. So really quickly, if we glance here, balancing loop with delay, what this means as an example is we need to improve the skill in the outfit. We need to put more effort into training and vetting players. Now skill will improve, but the player count will drop since, well, we have to reduce the worst players out of the group. Now you will have activity problems because your skill level is so high. And to counteract this drop in activity, you need to lower your standards when recruiting. So you need more players, and you can't just recruit very experienced players, you have to take in new players. Now, suddenly there's again the same problem. You have a need to improve the skill because you took in a lot of inexperienced players. Now, okay, you do the same thing again, you train again, you vet players, and now the activity drops and you need to recruit again. So I'm not saying this is always the way it happens, but this is a typical issue that you face in an organization, and so there are ways to mitigate it. But it's important to understand these typical patterns that happen. And now we're talking essentially about outfit leadership and community leadership. This has no meaning to you in game. So if you're just interested in leading in game, then you can forget about this. Then we have different schools for strategy formation. This again, just community management leadership on a higher level, not in game at all, or very, very lightly related to in game. And then we have some leadership leadership archetypes, which we can also look at. But yeah, that's all for tonight. Open mic discussion. If anybody has anything they want to discuss further, it doesn't have to be what we discussed here tonight. It can be something else.
I just want to voice a thank you very much, Modus, for holding this and being patient with us.
Oh, well, I would say thank you for being patient with me.
I mean, Dice, I think yesterday you had a question what to do with bad squad members.
Yeah, Dice.
No, that
Yeah,
was,
ask it, Dice. Ask it.
no,
ask it.
that was just a meme at the
Have you been shouting at people and shooting them?
Dice.
No, no.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure.
Good.
There's been plenty of unsavory methods in the past, so who am I to judge?
Oh, you have to look at Bob's his skill board, and then you can just see.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tonight, and in 2 weeks we'll be back at it again for those who are interested.